Right guys, how's it going? Welcome back. A little while ago I did a video about mechanics where I basically ranted for 10 minutes about the downtrodden, pessimistic, it's going to cost you this attitude. And it went down rather well, so I thought today I would focus my crosshairs on the customers. Yes, that's right, the general public. Before you think I've gone mad and I'm committing career suicide, let me just explain that probably 60% of my customers are lovely. They're repeat customers. They don't try and rip me off. I don't try and rip them off. Everything's lovely. They're a pleasure to deal with. But the other 40% really shouldn't be allowed out the house. Anyone who works in the motor trade, or in fact, I think I can cast my net wider than that. I think anyone who works in retail and deals with the general public will know that a good percentage of them are just impossible to deal with. Let's begin then with the ones whose parents didn't teach them any manners or any timekeeping skills. So for example, I'll have a call. Hi, I'm calling about your Golf. Is it still available? Yeah, it is, yeah. Can we come over this afternoon and have a look? About 4 o'clock? Yeah, certainly, yeah. So I get it off the back row, which involves moving around a dozen cars out of the way, go and get it washed, check the tyre pressures, put a bit of fuel in it so it's ready for a test drive, and then sit and wait. 4 o'clock comes, they don't show up. 4:15 comes, they don't show up. Anyway, then usually by 5 o'clock I try and call them to see where they are, had they got lost, and no answer. Or worse than that, it rings twice and then they hang up. And I just think, you utter time waster. You haven't got the decency to say, hi, sorry Matt, we bought another one, or sorry for messing you around, I can't make it today, my daughter's fallen over at school and broken her wrist. Anything like that, but they don't bother. And this happens probably once a week. Then you've got the customers who play good cop, bad cop with you. Generally this is a father and daughter scenario. So you've got the father who's an old, bitter, cantankerous, jaded old soul, and the daughter who's bubbly and outgoing and lovely, who's cringing and embarrassed by her father's rudeness. The father will talk down to you, tell you that he used to be in the motor trade, tell you that your car's overpriced or not very nice, or he's seen a cheaper one closer to his house, but somehow he's still showing up at your place. Generally, that kind of person just won't show you the same sort of respect that you show them. Then they'll spot the tiniest imperfection where perhaps it's had a nudge on a front corner splitter or something tiny and insignificant on a 10-year-old Fiesta, and then announce that it's been an accident and we've wasted his time. All right then, off you trot. Then you've got the know-it-all punters who've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, know more than you could ever possibly know, even though they've probably had a safe cards-in job their whole life. These are the kinds of punters who will tell you that, oh, it's £1,000 too dear this. Parker said it's only worth £4,000. Oh right. Well, call Parker's then, see if they've got a car for sale. Parker's sell magazines, we sell cars. Does Parker's know that mine's just had a cam belt, it's got 4 matching Pirelli tyres that are brand new? Does it know all of that? Or is it just marketing nonsense to get you to buy a magazine? Because I suspect the latter. These sorts of customers don't end up buying anything anyway, which is a blessing because you really don't need those kind of punters in your life. They will make your life a misery, trust me. Then you've got the punters who will usually call you or text you, and they want you to make a cast iron offer on their part exchange without you seeing it. Just give me a ballpark figure. Well, I haven't seen it. I haven't got a crystal ball. I'm not Mystic Meg. Bring the car to work, I'll have a look around it and make you an offer. Well, I've spoke to another couple of dealers and they said it's worth between 3 and 3.5. All right, well, you've got a ballpark figure then, so what do you want one from me for? Then you've got the people who try and part exchange their car and they want far too much for it. So I'll look around it and say, well, I think it's worth £1,500. Well, We Buy Any Car offered me £2,000. Well, take it to We Buy Any Car then. I don't want it anyway. Go away. Usually then, 2 days later, they come back with a tail between their legs because We Buy Any Car have in fact offered £1,200 when they get there and chipped them for a stone chip and only one key and a missing service in 2017. I see this all the time. It's funny, really. Then you've got, and this is probably my favourite, you've got the best price for cash mob. So let me just let you in on a little secret. If I bank cash, the bank charges me £10 for every £1,000 that I bank. So if somebody pays for a £5,000 car in cash, if I go and try and deposit that £5,000 in my bank, the bank will charge me £50. Not many people know that, but I think it's a complete rip-off. So why would that be any incentive for me to accept a lower offer for cash? Plus the fact, because there are no more bank branches anymore, they've all been turned into vape shops, this means that I've got to drive 15 minutes out of my way to some dump of an area where there is one remaining bank branch open, queue up outside now because of COVID, in a queue full of people spitting, swearing and blowing cigarette smoke in my face. They've usually got a crying child with them munching away on a Greggs sausage roll, leaving a trail of puff pastry behind like some sort of savoury Hansel and Gretel. So no best price for cash because I'm not interested. Also, I don't want to sound like I'm bragging now because I hate braggers. If I was in charge of the country, if anyone were caught bragging, there would be a custodial sentence. I think it's abhorrent. But I do all right for myself. I work 7 days a week and I do all right. So I'm suddenly not going to drop to my knees when you offer $2,500 for a car that I've got on at $3,000 and you want to pay in dirty old style 20s. In the words of Shania Twain,
that don't impress me much.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I think it's all right, but it won't keep me warm in the middle of the night. The other thing is, when I've got a car advertised at $2,995, what do you think our profit margin is? That I'm suddenly going to slash hundreds and hundreds of pounds off. Our profit margin, I'll let you in onto a bit of a secret, is about 20% on something like that. So you're offering £2,500 for something that's on at £3,000. That would cut my profit down to a couple £100, and what's the point? My overheads are monstrous. I need that profit margin in each car, otherwise there's no point. Then you get the customers that wander onto the forecourt and ask, what's the mileage on that little Yaris you've got at $2,995? It's done 67. Oh, it's too high that. I'd have bought it if it'd done 20. Well, yeah, I bet you would. So would everyone else. It'd be a grand dearer for a start. People who don't help the job are the likes of Martin Lewis and Dominic Littlewood, who've put it in the general public's head that there's somehow a deal to be had on everything. And that somehow it's a buyer's market. It isn't, by the way, not at all. There's a shortage of stock. This definitely just muddies the water. It's the likes of those two that have cast doubt in people's minds and makes everyone think that all car dealers are cowboys and conmen. And it's just false. Every single car dealer I know is just a hard-working person trying to make a living. This next thing sounds slightly sadistic and bitter, to be honest, but it's the greatest pleasure you can get out of this job. So, for example, you'll have a test drive on a car and the customer will be really hard work. Miserable, difficult to deal with, won't be impressed by the fact you've just had a cam belt done or any of that sort of stuff. He'll beat you down on price, and because you haven't sold a car since last Thursday and your rent's due next Tuesday, you think, go on then, I should just do this deal. Whatever he bids me, I'll just take. Then just as you think you're going to write an order form out, he'll say, well, let me have a think about it. I'll go home and speak to the wife. Then I go back to my desk, gutted that I've had to deal with an idiot for half an hour and it hasn't resulted in a sale. And then out of the blue, some lovely, normal human being wanders onto the forecourt and buys the car at asking price. Then the first customer will call back and say, it's me that came to look at this car this morning. I tell you what, if you throw in a tank of fuel or 6 months tax, I'll go with that. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Customer, it's sold. Then you can do your best smug face. Like I say, it's sad, but it is the greatest pleasure in this job. Another little story for you. This was about 5 years ago when I was just starting out. I had a little Peugeot 206 for sale, and it was for sale for £695, I think. It was quite a tidy little thing with a decent MOT on it. Not a bad car, really, for £695. So I got a call on it on the Tuesday. Can I come and have a look at it on the Wednesday? So I thought, right, perfect. My rent was due on the Thursday, so I thought, I've got no money as usual, so this is perfect. This will cover my rent. Anyway, Wednesday comes around, and nothing. It doesn't show up. So then I decided to give him a call. Hi, it's Matt at High Peak Autos. You called me yesterday about the Peugeot 206. You said you were coming at 12. It's now 1:30. Are you still coming? Have you seen the weather? I don't buy cars in the rain, me. It's £695. What could I possibly be hiding in the rain for £700? Get a life. This is quite a long list, isn't it? But honestly, I could rant about this for hours. The next kind of customer who really annoys me are the ones who say they'll come and look at a car, test drive it, negotiate price, you negotiate their part exchange, you get all that sort of out of the way, spend an hour with them, and then just as you ask for a deposit, well, I need to go and ask her indoors, I need to go and ask the boss, I need to go and ask the other half. Did you not speak to your wife before you came out and wasted my time? What a time waster. This happens all the time, at least once a week. Or the other kind of customer where they're really cautious and you test drive it and they love it and there's absolutely nothing they've faulted with it. Then they say, well, I'm not going to buy the first one I see. Well, why on earth not? So you're going to get in your car now and drive to Timbuktu looking for a better one when you might actually miss out on this first one. What's the point? Then you've got the geeky kind of customer who'll turn up with a clipboard. It'll usually be on something like an iGo at $1,995. And they'll call you the day before and say, right, I'm coming to look at this iGo. Don't start it, will you? I want to try and start it from cold. Right, okay, fine. Then if you have a glance at the clipboard while they're asking you questions, There are about 40 items on it. Check seat belts, check. Check number plates match, check. Stop for a brew from a flask, check. Get alive. Then I usually leave them to it, to be honest, because I can't be bothered. They'll come in then and ask something like, do you know if it's had its brake fluid service at 60,000 miles? No, to be honest, no, I don't. The history's a little bit patchy, to be fair, but it is what it is. Or something like, could you tell me if it's had its rear brake pads replaced? They were wearing a little bit thin in 2017. I'll tell you what's wearing thin, pal. My patience. Now get away. Then you've got the customers who moan all the time. Now it's usually on some sort of older, utterly humdrum car like a Mondeo or an Insignia at 2995 that's done 112,000 miles. And they will just live with you for weeks over the slightest little fault. They'll pay for it on a credit card because they've got no money at all. They're miserable because they're doing a miserable job and they hate their life, and they just make your life an absolute misery. They'll call you 3 times a day. There's a slight squeak on the clutch pedal, or there's a slight wheel wobble at 70 miles an hour. Listen, you bought a 12-year-old Insignia. What do you expect? I thought it was all right. It's been through the workshop. It is what it is. Now, what I would love to say to those kinds of people is get in the real world. You bought an older, high-mileage car. Get on with it. Just because you hate your life, don't take that out on me. It's got nothing to do with me. But instead, because of the consumer rights laws, you've got to be an appeaser, and I hate being an appeaser. It's wrong, really. The laws are just stacked against you. They're balanced way more towards the customers, and it just isn't right. There should be some sort of caveat on that Consumer Rights Act which disqualifies used goods. If you buy a brand new... I've said this before, I'm like a broken record. If you buy a brand new washing machine and after a month it leaks all over your kitchen floor, you should have rights, I agree. You should have rights with Currys or Comet or whoever to go and take it back and get a refund. I totally agree. But if you're buying a used washing machine that's 12 years old, that's had 7 owners, you shouldn't have any rights in the world. It's funny though what the general public must think, because I had a call recently from a customer. Well, she wasn't a customer in the end, I just had an inquiry on a car. And she said, is there a cooling off period? So I said, I don't know what you mean. She said, well, if I buy it, do I have like 14 days in case I change my mind? No. Are you for real? You certainly do not have a cooling off period. It's a used car. If you buy it and realise you hate it, tough luck. I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. This is what makes me laugh about these companies like Kazoo and Cinch. Now, if you don't know what those kind of companies are, they're trying to digitalise, if that's the right word, used car sales. According to the advert on television for these kinds of companies, you've got a suspiciously happy family who sit around their coffee table on their laptop and order a new used car. And the advert quite clearly says, if you realise after 2 weeks you don't like it, just call us and we'll give you a full refund and pick up the car. That won't work, will it? As soon as I heard that, I laughed out loud, because those kinds of companies are set up by Silicon Valley types with their offices full of beanbag chairs and their stress-free zones and their free vending machines. They've got no idea what it's like in the motor trade, where you work 10-hour days and grabbing a Snickers from the petrol station while you're on a test drive is the closest thing you get to a lunch hour. They've never met half of my customers. They've got no idea how tough it is out there. So what's stopping you buying a car, using it for 10 days, going to Cornwall with your kids and your dog, and then saying, right, sorry, I changed my mind, I don't really like it, can I have my money back? After you've added one more owner to the logbook, you've got the boot full of dog hair and the back's full of crushed up Watsits. It just isn't right, and it's destined to fail. Not that I sound bitter or anything, but it can't work. It can't work in the used car industry. I better wrap this up now because I've been ranting on for far too long, but I could go on for hours. Some of the stories and some of the things I've heard and experienced, you just wouldn't believe. If you work in the motor trade, let me know your experiences in the comments below. Or if you just work with the general public, because I'm pretty sure if you work in a retail environment, you will have experienced similar things. So let me know below. And also, can I just say thank you to the 60% of my customers who are normal, level-headed, nice, friendly people. I appreciate it. So thanks once again for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'll leave the link below. And yeah, cheers guys. I'll see you next time.